This is Daybreak, and thank you for staying with us. Welcome back. We welcome your contributions. The hashtag on Twitter is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Honorable Wonga, you had a point.
Thank you so much. I want to make a correction which the farmer Mwalimu did, that referring to the current government like they don't have goodwill. Like we implied like we don't have goodwill from the current government. I want to make that correction. As we stand today, the president has been very clear and has showed goodwill. And the only thing we are asking for is he has to emphasize on the goodwill that he has demonstrated whenever he has said that he wants to support the sugar farmers. All we need from him is let that goodwill be extended to this bill that we have in the House. We want to see that the government side support this bill so that we move forward as one in terms of making sure the sugar sector is laid into the provisions of the law. Second correction I would want to make is the issue my colleague talked about, the activities of the bill not having captured much of the issues of the farmers. The bill simply highlights the devil is always in the regulations. So I would want him to look at the difference between the bill as it is and the regulations to come thereon. When you look at the regulations that were done using the task force, they were so detailed. They touched on the real issues affecting the farmer. And so the moment we touch on the issue of a farmer in the bill, it now is activated and implemented by the regulations. So I wouldn't want him to look at the bill like it has not addressed the issues. And finally, he has talked of the bill not having extensively been sorted out by the farmers, attended to by the farmers. I want to remind him that through the task force, we had about 17 sittings. All the 17 sittings, I was the vice chairperson of Agriculture Committee. We did attend those meetings across the country, and I want to assure that each and every farmer from Lunga Lunga in Mombasa to Western Kenya, we participated. And so let him not be worried of the bill as it is. The report on the floor, Abdikadir, is so good, so nicely covered, and farmers have made their input. I met the farmers in Nairobi here when we were doing the last submission. All those stakeholders which were called in Nairobi at this hotel in Two Rivers. Yeah, there's a hotel in Two Rivers which you had a meeting, and all millers and farmers were invited, and they all attended.
Mwalimu, hang on. Mwalimu, there is this statement issued by the National Assembly's Agriculture and Livestock Committee, which is chaired by John Mutunga. And the committee has recommended the introduction of 4% sugar development levy, which is meant to bolster cane development and revitalize the ailing sugar industry in Kenya. Isn't this not bold government move to look into the sugar industry and by extension you, the farmers?
Yeah, it is, and that's great. But much of it ends up in writing, just on paper. We want it implemented on the ground. And you know, we are talking about farmers. This story of farmers. Who is the farmer? You know, we also have paper farmers, what I would call those who...
Bring figures.
Yeah, they are pretending to be like they are farmers, but they are not. We are talking of the real person on the ground who wakes up in the morning to till. And when it comes to that amount of money being given to support, through which process, which organization? So maybe since the bill is on the floor of the House, and we sure enough believe it will be passed, then an organization that will come in to take charge should be able to implement it. You know, if honestly, Weshmiwa, I may look like I'm talking out of order because I'm not a member of parliament, I don't know these laws, but I feel that we, the farmers of sugarcane, and allow me to be bold enough to say, we are not being treated fairly. Listen to this. Coffee was sorted out, even Mira. And the other day I was hearing, and I'm a member of my government, I support it, but I don't support certain stands. Look, here is a member of the public and big man coming to say, We are making sure we are protecting our factories of coffee so that nobody steals coffee. Who is protecting our ailing Umia sugar factory? When they are stealing metals from there, when taking away spare parts, at the end of the day, somebody must take responsibility.
Okay. Yes, Honorable.
I have three points to make. One, that true to speak, Honorable Wangwe's bill is a bill out of the task force report. Very consolidative, I can tell you for free. And one of the things we have agreed with the Honorable Wangwe is that we'll be all in the house. And mine is to use the task force report, because it is the farmers' report, as a mirror. This one has not gone the way the farmers wanted. Please, can we amend so that we align it to the task force report? That's point number one. Point number two, what you are reading is what annoys me. Somebody knows very well we are on the floor of the House with a bill that is looking at the total industry.
Yeah, the whole.
Even that SDL is part of what is we are because SDL can only be created and implemented through the regulations. But somebody wants to run away with it and cause another problem. A half measure. So what if you have SDL? Without regulations? Without a law? So what? Who will superintend that money? For what reason? Those are the half measures that has costed sugar industry. Can we do the right thing? Create the legal framework. Out of the legal framework, have the regulatory framework. Out of the regulatory framework, then have the farmer play his role, the miller play his role, the government play their role, the regulatory body play their role. We will all enjoy.
Okay.
Third, when Mheshimiwa Wangwe and I talk about goodwill, and I'm very happy the farmer is talking about it, it's not enough to say we want to sort up the issues in sugar industry. Just the way we have prioritized coffee and prioritized tea, sugar must be prioritized.
Okay.
Just finish. That's what we are all saying. And for me and the Honorable Wangwe, the priority we want to see is that when we are on that floor, the leader of majority should be saying, as government, and which by the way, Uhuru had directed that Kandui MP's bill be taken over by government, which they failed. Actually, if I were an advisor to President William Ruto, I would have told him, can the government take over Wangwe's bill and run with it? Because so many things would happen. The sharks would be kept off, and the goodwill would be demonstrated. Finally, you may not know, the conference in Kakamega is our issue with the governor.
Beautiful. That's what I wanted to get.
We are in it. It is our way of measuring how well. In that place, we would be presenting ourselves, we will be presenting the bill, and we will be telling the people this is where we are, and this is the direction.
Thank you. Honorable Wangwe, there was the question about the goodwill that we have talked about, and Honorable Nabi had laid the blame at the doorstep of the Ministry of Agriculture. Here is a bill coming to Parliament, and Parliament is an independent entity, an arm of government. Then what guarantees are there for the success of that bill owing to its failure in the implementation of the report by the task force outside Parliament, despite the President giving the direction to do so? I mean, members of Parliament are independent and they make decisions based on what they think, depending on the content of your bill. What guarantees do you have that they will support your cause?
Thank you very much. Already there are indications that they are going to support my bill. And that's why I was very emphatic to tell my colleague, my good farmer, that the current government has showed some signs of goodwill. About a month and a half ago, the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture invited all sugar cane growing MPs to a meeting at Kari. And we all attended. Basically, the gist was, what is the way forward of our bill? And we left that meeting in agreement that the government is in support of the bill. That's one step that is positive to show that there is already now goodwill, because we knew we need this goodwill. We had a problem with agriculture as a ministry. Now, can we bring in the Ministry of Agriculture? Current CS has already committed that and confirmed to members in Kari that he is supporting the bill. He was before my committee 2 days ago, and I put the same question to him before the cameras. He confirmed that he is in support of the bill. We need to move forward, and even highlighted the current measures from the Sagana meeting which they had with the president. So from where I sit, I'm seeing some slight steps. But you see, a government, you must keep on knocking on its door. You must keep on telling the government that this is the shoe pinching us. And that's why we are saying we want to remind the president. We are simply reminding him. He's already seized of the matter. But we are reminding him that, Mr. President, please don't forget. Please continue telling your leader of majority that the bill is coming this afternoon. Let his troops support us, and then we move forward.
Okay, and did you raise a point here? Because when we had the debate on the finance bill in Parliament, now an act, the 8% increment in petroleum products. And here is the chain, because there is the farmer, there is the farm, and then there is the factory. The cost of transport involved therein, and whereas Mwalimu is pinched, or the other farmers, the cost of transport, logistics here is involved. I mean, do you talk about with the government about these issues? And this is just one factor that informs production of cane and any other production in the country. Is this an issue that you as well picked up with them and the bearing it might have on the farmers?
Yes, when you look at our debates on the floor, key issues that we are bringing up was the issue of fuel, in terms of the VAT 16%, the issue of VAT on transportation. It also came out very clearly. And it's something we raised during the debates. It's on camera, it's on everywhere. And so, but you know, the minority will always have their say, but the majority take their way.
Okay. Yes, Mwalimu, allow me to take the point of the farm.
I want to believe that from the statements that the president has been giving, he has the goodwill. I've just remembered that when he was last in church, where Mheshimiwa you attended, you were there, he said he was going to fix this issue of sugarcane once and for all by making sure they write off the debts, then they make sure that they create an environment within which a farmer would be able to benefit. That is a step in the right direction. But the issue of this bill, the bill, is good because it's going to go on. Apart from the bill, what else? Do we have two sets of laws in this country? Okay. When AFA gave a directive that all sugar mills should close because there is no enough sugar or it's immature, but some factories continued crashing up to and until yesterday. And I'm sure Mheshimiwa Wangwe are aware, when you were in those sides of Chemili not long ago, a factory like Kibos, which I am informed is still crashing. They are preparing to close. I have at least a copy of their notice now. By 19th is when they will be closing. Who bears the responsibility? Now, I was sometimes on one of our local stations and I was complaining about this AFA group. Please, Mheshimiwa, when you go there, when you get to Parliament, because we don't know the laws in Parliament and how they are made, and gladly you are here, you are telling us, tell the people of Mlembe that in that bill also, this AFA thing should be done away with from our sugar industry, so that we have a body that will deal secretly, correctly, for the benefit of us, the farmers. Otherwise, we will start fighting amongst ourselves, and those industries are not run by ourselves. When they talk of this English, commercialization, privatization, leasing, that is to confuse us, the farmers.
Okay, yes.
I'm sorry, I want to take slightly a different mode. The reason I have insisted that goodwill must be demonstrative, not just saying, is based on page 19 of the report, which I'm very happy. Honorable Wangwe, when he spoke on the Sugar Act, he was very, very particular, and I was very particular. Item number 6 on page 19 was specifically how do we address the cost of production, which affects this man. Mm-hmm. This is a farmer in Mumias. He will tell you he will produce a lot of cane and end up with something called DR.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay?
Terrible.
DR is he gets negative.
That I owe the company.
That he owes the company. Because the company supported him with some fertilizer and all. And the task force analyzed. And why I have a particular issue about the Minister of Agriculture, whether really they mean what they say, is it says this. The first thing the task force wanted is that sugar must be classified as a food. Why is it that it's not classified as a food? And we have said it must be classified as food. Okay? And we said, and why? Because it's not classified as a food, it therefore attracts VAT. 16%. Since 2002, VAT on transportation has also been 16%. Now, and it goes to this, you pass it to the farmer. All this, you pass it to the farmer. And then, it reduces the profits from sugarcane production. And then, more or worse, has been taxation on agricultural machinery. My brother, the total cost of taxation we calculated on sugar, before anything else, the total was coming to 32%. I mean, how would a sugarcane farmer make money?
And that point takes me to Honorable Wangwe, because that report also highlights the production. And here, allow me to take the following numbers. Local production so far is 490,704 metric tons. That's less than 50% of what we need. The demand is 1 million metric tons. Yeah. Therefore, we have a deficit of 521,695 metric tons that we need to produce. This report highlights the problem with the production process, which, if addressed, can bridge this deficit of 521,695 metric tons. I mean, this is clearly well spelled out.
Yes.
Who will act on this?
Thank you. And that's why the Constitution of Kenya separates the two. The mill is national, and the cane is county. Now, that issue is based on the input of cane to produce 1 ton of sugar. Mm-hmm. If the efficiency can be lowered, what is the international standard? 7 tons of cane to produce 1 ton of sugar. That's the international. Or sometimes it even comes down to 6.5. Mm-hmm. What are we doing today? 14 tons of cane to produce 1 ton of sugar. Double. So that means if we are doing 490 today, and we go back and say, Nzoia Sugar, with its old machine, can we get it a new machine from the national government? What is the cost of a 5 TCT mill? Is it like 5 billion? That's the truth. That's the cost. How much are we looking for to keep on funding Nzoia Sugar, to keep on repairing the old mill? That is about every year 5 million, 500 million, 200. When you sum up, it's about 10 billion. Mm-hmm. Are we economically using are we prudently using our resources? The answer is no. So the issue is, if we can get the right mills from the national government, upgrade the 1971 mill, get it properly, you install the proper mill, to get the 6.5 or 7 tons of cane to produce 1 ton of sugar, you'll have to come up with about 900,000 tons.
Which means we'll need
a paltry less than 100. Yeah. And when we get that less than 100, we will now comply with the COMESA and be within the COMESA region.
Because the recommendation also says that also COMESA imports be duty-free and on quota-free basis. Yes. That's according to the recommendation by the president. Yes, please.
From where I sit, I still want to tell Mheshimiwa Wangwe that we will produce excess sugar.
Correct.
No, not even 900.
If we do what right?
Three things.
Okay.
Three things. One, we must invest in the farmer so that the production, the quality of cane from the farmer is of high quality. And we have seen it. Let me tell you, Honorable Noah Wekesa, who is the best now farmer in the country today, in Trans Nzoia, he's producing between 114 and 124 tons of cane per acre. That's one farmer. What I mean,
very good. Yeah.
The best soils for sugar farming in Kenya are in Nzoia sugar bed. Why can even the nucleus does not even get 60? Why? And an individual farmer is getting 114 agronomic practices. What that means, one, for him as a farmer, a small-scale farmer in Mumias, the county government must invest in extension service.
Research.
It must invest in research. It must invest in farmer support in terms of seed. You need quality seed. The farmer needs quality fertilizer, which is soil compliant, right? And with that, we have already seen Butali Sugar demonstrate that you can get closer. Already, they have, when they have good cane, they get to 8.9, 9.1 tons TCD for 1 cane of for 1 ton of sugar.
Okay.
Why are we doing 14? We are harvesting immature sugar. Okay. Sugar cane. And when you harvest immature sugar cane, what do you expect? In fact, the farmer loses between 50 to 74% of his earning if you harvest his cane when it's immature. Okay,
Honorable Nabi, when you talk about that, I'll come to you, Mwalimu Walimo. When you talk about that, I'm looking at the sugar imports since the year started. January we had, this is in 22,722 metric tons. In February, we had slightly by 1,000 to 28,609. But something happened in March where we jumped by more than 70,000 tons to 93,800 metric tons. And this was when the duty-free importation was put in place. I mean, are we not talking about also the elephant in the room of importers who are taking advantage of the woes that is bedeviling the sugar sector in Kenya?
I told you, sugar is white gold. And I told you, part of the problems in the sugar industry are actually manufactured. We cause a crisis, and in causing that crisis, we say we have no cane. We have no sugar. Can we import sugar? And the people who make money are a middleman. I'll tell you, I've been to all these countries that produces sugar. For God's sake, sugar can land in this country at not more than 70 shillings a kilo. But how much money do we sell sugar?
250.
We are now at 350. Yep. We are going to 400.
To give you the specific numbers, when you talk about importation, here what you have is a landing cost of, this is by the Sugar Directorate, and of about 88 shillings, and then retailing at more than 211 Kenya shillings.
Correct. But that 88 is sugar coated. Is sugar. They have taken it to interest that I don't want to talk about. Yeah. But look at it. Isn't it not what I've just told you? That, and Mwalimu has put it, part of the problem in this country in the sugarcane farming is an animal called afa. And that's why his sugar bell comes up with a board, an authority, an independent institution that will run the sugar sector.
Is this a problem that you have pointed out in the report?
It is.
Oh,
it is. It is.
People are taking advantage.
Oh, yes. The report says we do not need to be, sugar should get out of Africa.
And this importation.
Yes.
Much as we are happy that it is going to reduce the price of sugar on the market for consumers, it is going to affect the farmer so directly that if history is anything to go by, you will remember that whenever there's too much sugar from outside, it affects the farmer directly because the millers do not normally have market for their otherwise non-cost effectively produced sugar. And so they always tell the farmer, we will now lower the price of cane. That, if the government were to think about it, and I remember at one time, I used to hear that there used to be a quotas allocated to millers, that because of the deficit, we'll give you this amount of limit to import, and from there, then we shall cover up the deficit. But what Mheshimiwa is refusing to say is that we have sugar barons. Those barons are closer to drug barons.
But I've said it.
Yeah, you said gold miners. You know, gold looks a bit good, but those barons can kill you to get what they want. And what I do not know is that when we are told that the government has identified importers. Who are these importers? How much sugar are they bringing in? For how long? And when they close factories for 4 months, where is this fast-growing cane of 4 months that they expect to start harvesting? When indeed, I still go back to AFA and I will say, when they allowed our friends in who took over the revival of Mia Sugar, and that is, I think he's called Sarai, when they allowed him to start crushing 4 months after he was given the license, and remember the factory had closed for over 2 years, so meaning that he did not, the factory itself did not have any contracted farmer. They went harvesting everything and anything that came their way because the humongous size of the so-called diffuser, it can consume sugarcane, which Muhoroni, Miwani, Kol will do in a week, they'll do it in half an hour. And they'll have cleared it. So even as they have started planting the nucleus, where have they been sourcing the crop? So everything that has gone wrong has gone wrong. I'm only prayerful, and I'm sure, I'm happy that the 2 members of parliament are part and the engine of the forthcoming sugarcane convention of the Luhya people. Because when you talk of sugarcane, sisi ndio wakulima. Okay. So,
Honorable Wangwe, ahead of that conference and this cabinet meeting which happened at the Sagana State Lodge that proposed Nzoia, Chemilil, Miwani, Muhoroni, South Nyanza and Mumias sugar companies to be operated under lease and operating framework to commercialize them pending to a parliamentary approval. And the sugar conference forthcoming in the county of Kakamega, convened by the Governor Fernandez Barasa. How will you itemize the agenda about the welfare of the farmers here, which is as well one of the key part of the recommendations by the Sugar Task Force report of 2018? Because number one, it helps bridge that deficit. 2, helps address the market needs. And then 3, that will in the long run address the stoppage of importation because enough can be produced in the country. Will the farmer agenda be itemized as required?
Thank you so much. First, and allow me to make a correction that that conference coming up is not convened by Governor Baraza. It is convened by the Lake Region Economic Bloc. Yes. It's an LREB issue. Therefore, that correction should be very clear. He is only the voice, he has only made the voice on behalf of other governors. But it's an LREB affair. And number 2, the issue on, I want to concur and thank the President for that direction on leasing. It was suggested in the task force as one of the directions. And if the President has chosen to go that route, I feel it's a welcome route. Why? The main issue of, the main challenge has always been that these public mills do not have an owner. They exist in a vacuum. Every MD who comes on appointment is on a looting spree because he knows in the next 1 month he might be chased away. Therefore, the moment you give an owner and say, this is now a person doing it for the next 25 years, you will now ask the question, why is Butali making profits? Why is West Kenya making profits? Why is Transmara making profits? Why is Kibos making profits? Because those are private entities. So we want to also go the line of ownership of the factory, number 1. That's okay, in terms of the tail end. But when it comes to the farmer, what Mheshimiwa Nabi was telling Mheshimiwa Mwalimu is when we have a private, an owner who knows that he must need the importance of input, and the critical input in a sugar mill is the cane. So this person is going to be in charge of these farmers. He'll have to play along the farmer. He'll have to know which seed is being grown, which fertilizer is coming on board, and will work with voices like him on the ground to make sure that what is being produced is good enough to feed into my factory. Because if there is no cane, he'll close down. And if he closes down, yet invested in leasing this factory, he'll not make return on investment. Therefore, it's an issue which is a good value chain that will be practiced and is a good thing to go by.
Okay, Honorable Nabi, regarding the management of the levy, the Committee on Agriculture and Livestock had recommended the reinstatement of the Kenya Sugar Board as a regulator of the sector, while the Commodities Fund will oversee the management of the Sugar Development Levy, SDL. Why in the first instance? Is it not a worthy cause you pursue as to why it hasn't been operational? First of all, why call for its reinstatement now?
No, you know, I told you with the coming up of the AFA Act, one of the things that it did was to do away with the Sugar Board, as it were, and the Sugar Act became moribund. If you read the report, Ayub, it's very clear. And I'm telling you, the Committee on Agriculture is being pedestrian. That's the word to use. They know very well his bill addresses all those things. You know, the bill is giving a total legal framework to look at the sugar industry as an industry. The farmer, the miller, the regulator, all these things, including the importers and the merchants and all these things. The problem here, even as we talk about leasing, people are very excited. I'm not. I'm not.
Why?
So what if you lease in Zoe and there's no cane? So what if you lease in Moroni and there's no cane? So what if you lease in Chemelil and there's no cane? The only thing that will... In fact, if leasing was to come to Parliament, I'll be insisting to my colleagues, including Honorable Wangwe, let's prioritize. The first thing comes first. The regulations come first. The act comes first, the bill. The bill comes first. All these other things will fall into the bill. And most importantly, one of the recommendations that people keep on losing sight about, even as we talk about leasing and all this, is that the report said there has never been a synchrony between crushing capacity and production of the cane, which he is talking about. The conference, I will be the voice of the farmer. Let me tell you, all these stories being told about sugarcane, if we don't invest fully in the farmer, there is no industry called sugar industry. Because this report knows very well where it has identified where the rain started beating us. For example, in Mumias, when the then Kidero management went on a spree to kill the outgrower institution. So the farmer had no voice. What then happened? The farmer lost interest in farming because nobody is talking on him. The production cost went so high, he was unable. And the report says, we must, and I'm very happy the bill has captured it, we must strengthen outgrower institutions so that the farmer has a voice on the table. There is even another committee that the report talks about, the stakeholders committee, which brings together the miller, the farmer, and even these merchants, so that they sit on the table and say, why are you charging sugar at 350, na sisi wakulima mnatupatia 4,000 per ton? Who is making this money in between? All these things are captured in the bill. You know why I have a problem with the Minister of Agriculture? With all its experts. They went ahead and tried to cassette regulations, he will tell you, in 2022, without an act. I mean, so the question I asked Mheshimiwa here, these regulations are implementing which law? because regulations are supposed to implement an act of parliament. But they went and did it. But it was meant to do it, to cheat the sugar growing region into believing that something is happening when indeed there was nothing happening.
Okay, thank you. Let's now sample the feedback, and as we proceed with the discussion here on the broadcast, we did ask you to get in touch with us on the hashtag Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Kipto Ruto says the plea of sugarcane farmers must be heard. They cannot endure losses in farming and also be purchasing sugar at high of 500 Kenya shillings a price. The reason for importing sugar seems puzzling given our numbers, our numerous functional factories and ample sugarcane resources. Babu Michelle K says it is painful truth that importation of sugar benefits specific individuals in the government, so they always play games and make sure the sugar sector crisis always favor the importations. Somebody somewhere always remains in business. Honorable Lillian Soe says with a strong financial partner, the importing of better management to improve professionalism and accountability to the sector, reforms can be made to make Kenya a strong sugar producer, sustained with better laws in the agricultural production. Bob Otieno Owino says politicians have taken sugar problems as their campaign tool, especially leading presidential candidates we have witnessed millions of shillings being given to revive these industries, but in vain. Where does these monies go? Kahawa _ni_dawa says the issue of cane varieties. Have new and better performing varieties been produced and given to the farmers? This will improve earnings to the farmers and reduce the cost of production at the factories. A win-win in Kibos Research Awake. And EKM 40 says sugar conference as proposed by Kakamega County Governor is a waste of time and backward solution. Let Luya leaders push for government goodwill to sort out the sugar sector problems. Solutions are available in the task force report. Brian Chemwa says we need policy changes, incentives, investments in research and development, implement regulations on production, pricing, offer subsidies and promote efficient practices, fund initiatives to develop new technologies and improve sustainability. SAO says the Kenya Kwanza government has all its priorities wrong as far as farmers are concerned. You can't give Ken farmers fertilizer, then close the factories, give them fertilizer to plant maize, then open imports when they are about to harvest. There is something wrong. Okelo Mwalimu says politicians from sugarcane growing areas have perfected the art of formulating campaign manifestos around, quotes, revival of collapsed or collapsing sugar factories, end of quote. However, once elected, most of them usually backpedal on such promises, leaving the electorates with their woos. It's a sad situation, he says, and the exclamation mark. Variety, a mixed bag of feedback from our viewers. Yes, Malami, you had a point. I'll come to you, Honorable Wangwe.
All in all, we have seen the views, and those views are varied because they're right, and some are not friendly. But this problem seems to be going to reach its positive end. Positive end because when I see Mheshimiwa Wangwe and Mheshimiwa Nabi here telling me to listen on behalf of the farmers what they intend to do, then I'm confident. But I am not very confident with the way we have managed our sugar industries, especially those mills that, as Mheshimiwa Wangwe said, managed by the government. Why should it happen that when we get to produce sugar, those government-owned factories let us down? And the money, who takes the money? As the question is, who has taken the money that was, when we were going for elections, Nzoia Sugar Company was given money to revive, the thing closed down. Just in 2022. Mumiasi the same. And the private ones, let us make it clear that we are not going to create this animal called zoning. I'm not quite informed on what is inside the bill about zoning. By zoning, we mean that a particular factory can only operate in a particular region and not allow another one to come to work on this other region. I'm saying so because as we sit here now, I'm not just a farmer, but I'm also contracted to a particular operating factory. And that factory may be a little bit at distance from where the other one is located. Reason being, by the way, and this is true, Mheshimiwa Wangwe, he has sugarcane. But today, if he was to sell his sugarcane, he would either take it to Butali or West Kenya, because those are the currently operating factories. But if you zone that only people around Butali should take cane to Butali, Butali will say, I am the one who has monopolized this region. And therefore, I will give you the amount of money I want, or you let your cane to rot on the farm. So we should open up the market, because we are living in an open world of where we say goods moving from one direction to another. And then that will also, when we are operating under the new arrangements that they are creating, the regulatory bodies that will be there, we shall be able to have a voice through them.
Thank you. Honorable Wangwe, you had a point. I'll come to you.
Thank you very much.
Because I'm sure you want to respond to what he said. Yes, please.
Part of what we just read that came out of Sagana was the write-off of some debts. I just want to single out Nzoia Sugar, a company that has appeared before me through one of the financial statements. In around 1970s, it's purported to have borrowed 1.4 billion. And to date, the interest and everything has accrued to about 40 billion. So when you go to the statement of accounts of Nzoia Sugar, you will see a fictitious figure, a figure that is blocking it to about 40 billion. So I want to say that's a good position from Sagana. Let us clean the books of our factories, because that is what the management uses to hide and say, we are repaying some debts. And eventually they lose touch in terms of what they want to do in terms of business. So it's good I make a comment that that's a positive direction. We would want those debts written off. We want fresh balances and fresh balance sheet to be cleared. I want to just go to the remarks made by our viewers, and I want to appreciate them. And it's good to shoot on any person on their nails. So I want to say, one of the viewers commented and said that the politicians use sugar mills as a campaign tool. That is true. Every time it has been, we politic around it. But when we now get into the house, we forget. And that's why Mheshimiwa Nabi and I and the entire Western Caucus have taken it this early, that this is our second year in the house. Let us commence it now and actualize what our farmers are saying, so that the next 4 years we work with farmers. And the only best way we can work with farmers is to put a framework through such a bill. And if this bill comes into play, definitely somebody will be operating outside the law by not doing what the bill recommends once it's made a law. Number two, my brother mentioned that the issue of zoning, it has been taken care of in this bill. We are not going for zoning. We have the bill does not propose zoning. What it does, it mirrors zoning, but on the larger scale. What is the challenge that we are facing? One mill, one farmer. That cannot work. We want Mheshimiwa Mwalimu here, Mheshimiwa Nabi and I could be one in the same neighborhood, but we are accessible to 3 or 4 mills. So that when one mill is not buying my cane, I have an option, although I've contracted one other bill. But we've not left you, a farmer, alone. We are saying, why can't you be contracted to that farmer? And if that farmer, that factory cannot take the mill, they can still negotiate. Since they've invested in you, through they have invested in agronomy in you, they can as well also negotiate you to the other factory. After all, the pricing committee, if it is established properly, the way Juma has said, it will be having a universal price. These 3 factories will not have different prices. They'll have one common price. That's what the bill is proposing.
Okay. Yes, Honorable Nabi.
Yes. I want to thank Honorable Wangwe for saying something very clearly. I want to go on record as her saying this, that it was very evident as we went around the country that lack of some framework managing millers' relationship with the farmer was the cause of a problem. I'll tell you an example. A well-known miller in Western Kenya with 3 or 4 factories invests 0 shilling in cane farming and farmers' development. But he would go to poach cane developed by other millers, including using force, hiring thugs to block the owners of the cane to come and harvest the factory that they contracted. And we are saying, the moment we don't invest in the farmer, we are lying to ourselves. Cane is not maize. Cane is not milk. It takes several months to mature. A farmer needs some safety net. When the cane is in the field for 18 months, he must have a relationship with somebody who, when he needs some help, this person is available. Not some shark who is just waiting that when, oh, okay, your cane is ready, can I come? But when I was developing, when I was suffering, when I needed fertilizer, when I needed pesticide, where were you? This relationship is being addressed in the bill. I understand the frustration the viewers who have responded are going through. My brother Ayub, all of us are frustrated. I can tell you, when I grew up, when I went to school, I admired anyone who worked in Mumias Sugar. I actually wanted to work in Mumias Sugar because every good house in my village was built by a farmer who was supplying cane in Mumias, or a worker who was working in Mumias Sugar or Nzoia Sugar. Today, the most frustrated person, the person looking very badly, is a cane farmer.
Thank you.
From Mumias.
From Mumias.
Okay, Honorable Nabi, when you talk about the welfare of the farmer here and who is a key pillar in the entire sector, the Federation of Sugarcane Farmers issued a statement in light of the Sagana State Lodge proposal by the Cabinet, and the Deputy Secretary General of the Federation, Simon Wesechere, said that the leasing proposal is not a viable solution for the revival of the sector. Instead, he said they need to emphasize that a comprehensive cane development programs diligently executed are key to the stabilization of these mills. He further said, we acknowledge the use of bailouts to revive the sectors such as coffee. However, Wesechere says the government's reluctance to apply the same strategy to the sugar subsector is not going to be the viable.
I want to disagree.
Still, they have a concern.
Let me just help Wesechere. He's looking at it from a narrow lens of the mill. He's not looking at the comprehensive big picture. The alternative is to sell. And all those mills, if you are to sell them today, will sell them at a loss.
And to one buy.
The loser will be the community. They will lose the land. And that's why I, Nabina Bwera, I've gone on record, and with all the MPs from Western Kenya, we cannot allow our ancestral land to be sold. And it will never be sold. You kill all of us, sell it. Because even where the land was sold to government, it was acquired under Public Acquisition Act for a particular purpose, which was cane development. You cannot say you want to sell it the way they sold the pen paper and the man has turned the thing into something else.
I want to respond a bit, just a little bit. Just a little bit. Mr. Wesechere should be able to be reminded that the farmer of today is the second and third generation of the sugarcane farmer. Because the first generation was my father, who gave up because of the poor management he was receiving from Mumias Sugar at the then DR business. And today, I'm trying to make break because I had an alternative source of income to start planting cane as an investment. So give the government its due share of blame, but accept that they are on the right track to revive. And I think with the support of these great men of Luyaland, I will tell my farmers in the villages, as I was there last week with them who Kwetu Matungu, we had a meeting of farmers who have decided to plant privately, and we are waiting upon a miller that will be able to support us on land preparation, seed, correct seed, and at the very correct timing, where we will not waste much of it. So Wesechere has a right of opinion, but we may not buy into it.
Okay, final comments to you, Honorable Wangwe.
I would want also to weigh in and go Mheshimiwa Nabi and my colleague, the farmer, weigh and say, Wesechere is looking at that from one single lens. Let him put on 4 lenses, not even 2, and say, when he produces cane, where does he take it? Yeah. And how does he intend to produce cane? Why is he not producing cane now? Nobody has stopped him from producing cane. The issue is we must get the structures right. We must appreciate what the government is doing. Let it organize one arm, which is the upper echelon of the production. Then, the way we've said, let the whole government come down and join the county government at the lower level in terms of addressing the issues of the farmer. Then we complete the chain. So it's one lens he has looked at. Let's look at the lens entirely. And we support the whole process and move on.
Thank you.
Yes, my final comment on this is that agriculture is devolved.
Okay.
And why I am very excited about the conference, I'm going to look at the governors in the eye and tell them, commit here how much money you are going to put into cane development and what is the structure, and propose to them the structures that can work and how much money they are going to put into extension service and research. I will be on the floor of the House from today assisting Honorable Wangwe, persuade the nation to see why we even need money for research, so that we have the Kibos Research Center is reactivated, and it has sites even in Western Kenya, in Bungoma, in Kakamega, in Trans Nzoia. I will also be persuading the governor of Trans Nzoia to embrace cane farming.
Thank you.
I'm aware he thinks cane is going to dismantle the food basket. Okay. But I'm also telling him it could be our next generation of getting our people rich.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have to end it there. Many thanks for your accounts here on the broadcast. Honorable Emmanuel Wangwe is the lawmaker representing Navaholo constituency. Your time is all appreciated. Thank you for gracing us with your presence here. Mwalimu Raphael Walimo is a sugarcane farmer from the belt. Thank you. Your time is appreciated. And to the Lugari lawmaker, Honorable Nabi Nabwera, who as well was the team and part of the joint secretary that came up with the 2018 Sugar Task Force report, which was handed over to then President Uhuru Kenyatta. And thank you to you too for waking up with us, and thanks for the feedback. Up next is Health and Lifestyle with Lillian Mole, and I'll see you here on the broadcast by the grace of God on Friday morning. Good morning.